trying to create themselves. I feel like they're saying now if anyone is part of an old Spaniard colony, if you want to be part of Spain, they'll you could go to Spain and live there. And within 2 years, if you could prove you're from the old colony, one of the old colonies, you could be a Spaniard citizen. Not that I want to go there, but I'm just saying that too. Also, they're going against, Israel and the Zionists. And didn't they do something, agree with the United States and Israel about slavery? It was only 3 countries, that agreed. It was Argentina, Israel, and the United States of America. So, yeah, only for those 3 hours. Now I'm back to go fuck yourself, man.
That what I'm trying to convey, all right? Listen, if you're gonna let him up, at least let me finish what I gotta say.
Fly attendant, no, that's okay. What they do with private jets is that they reposition them. So the jet will land.
Same thing. We don't protect our kids, fam. Cheap ass.
It's easier to keep stuff
Right. We know. The reality is, and it's a sad reality. Yes, these little girls is fast, but that don't excuse the predators. You see what I'm saying? Let them be fast with kids their own age. You see what I'm saying? It don't excuse the predators because the R. Kelly situation, that was just sad. Them parents should be fried. They should be hung out to dry. But don't excuse R. Kelly's actions. Even though the kids' parents co-signed it, don't excuse her.
If you were on a jury, would you say she's not guilty? Or she'd be mad at me back?
I'm gonna look at the letter. I'm gonna look at the letter of the lawyer. She shot him in the back. She was talking about this online. Would I want her to go to prison? Would I want to go to prison for 50 years? No, I'd give her 5. But yeah, she guilty. She guilty.
Yeah, somebody lost their life, man. That's not, you can feel a certain way, but she didn't shoot him under the bed. If she had shot him under the bed like Predator in my house, I feel threatened.
I said they turn 2 years old and then they become
between my son is 65. That's considered still a toddler. But the daycare.
No. It's just that when you're listing stuff, if you have more than 2 kids,
a kid. How you know I'm listening to kid?
But Adam's point, people don't know Antarctica in particular, which was the third one she said. Anyway.
Jacob take a shower. Jacob looks like a dirty boy. Probably smells like shit. His probably dirty. Ooh, Jacob smells like a shit.
Anyway, my segment's over. You guys got it. It was a good segment.
In a poetic context or in a spiritual context, it says to leave her momentarily.
Wait, you said don't put too much chip on the dip. But have you ever put too much dip on the chip?
And type shit. You know what I'm saying? Type shit.
Or is there such thing?
You know what I'm saying? You got something. You know what I'm saying? That's something. Type shit.
This nigga retarded.
Talking like man. Stop trying to talk like you're tough. There you go.
Just talk to me like
that white man when you
too much dip on the chip. Or is there such thing?
Of course there's too much dip on a chip.
No, there's never too. See, that's where you're wrong. I gotta disagree with you.
See, you talking to me like a record.
Oh, shit.
español, oprima el ocho.
And that's not going to happen because every time that's happened in the
What's the
past,
issue you're calling
the
about?
Jews have been fucking persecuted and fucking wiped out. It's just not going to.
High-speed internet.
I used the number you are calling from and found an internet account. Is that the account you are calling about?
No.
So I can help you. What's the account number or phone number on the account?
There is none.
That's fine. No problem. To better handle your call, how can I help with your high-speed internet? You can say things like new service.
New service.
What's the zip code you are calling for?
60630.
Thank you. 1 second, please. Which are you calling about? A personal or business account?
Personal.
Okay. Hold on a minute. Please wait. 1 moment, please, while I handle your request. To help me verify access to your account, please say or enter your 4-digit account passcode.
I don't have it.
All of our agents are assisting other callers. I can text you a link to chat with an agent. Press 1 to chat, or press 2 to decline. We have your number as 31249805117. Press 1 to receive your text message at this number. Okay, that text should be coming in shortly. Thanks for calling.
Get the right to walk away with the pig or not?
The pig is like.
Hamas attacked Israel on October 7. Israel fought back. Israel won. I said
It's like if the bus is can we
I think that you only the matrix.
Rich, you're in the matrix or so.
The only issue I have with the two-state shit is legitimizing.
Well, Rich has a problem to let somebody else talk. What the fuck?
If Hamas is still in power,
voice.
okay, you're in the matrix.
Rich, it is you.
Voice or what? Let somebody else fucking talk. You are in the matrix.
Go ahead, Shuki.
Yeah, but you are too.
No,
Rich, we can't hear you. Rich, we can't.
No, I thought it was Shuki, sorry. No, can you hear me now, Rolf, or no?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So I think the only
my sentence or no?
Oh my God, you went in the Matrix and I went in the Matrix.
Let's check it. Let's do this. Do this. Check and finish your sentence, then Rich, you can continue after.
Okay, sorry.
The thing of it is, on October 7, a war stopped. A war that not Israel stopped, the Palestinians stopped. Israel retaliate, respond, call it however the fuck you want. She won. The land belongs now to Israel, meaning the so-called Palestinians, what you pronounce, lost. The land also. And if you don't remember that, then let me remind you. Between 1948 to 1967, the Gaza was belonged to Egypt. In 1967, the Six-Day War, Israel won. Israel took over the Gaza. Between 1948 to 1967, Egypt did not declare Gaza as a Palestinian state. Egypt did not declare Gaza as a Palestinian land. It was Egyptian land. Then tell me why anybody on this earth supposed to declare that now it's a Palestinian state or Palestinian land, for that matter.
Well, yeah, thanks, Rory. You just summarized the history of Israel from about 1917 onwards in a very lucid way. That is the exact mentality that took hold of the original Zionists. Many of them just wanted a peaceful land for the Jewish people to be not persecuted anymore. They just wanted to be left alone, live in a place. They had a few candidates, but the most obvious one was the land of Jerusalem, right? Where they have connection, their roots, the diaspora wanted to return to the Holy Land as they perceived it. So it made natural sense. And the Balfour Declaration, which the British wrote, was basically saying we are proposing a land for Jewish people to settle there, and they should not impede and harm the rights of the indigenous people, right? That was the plan. It was a very nice plan, and there were utopians and liberals and religious and atheists all agreed on this plan, which seems like a fair plan. But historically, though, over time, because of the various conflicts, the more aggressive nationalistic types got more and more influence and power. They were smuggling arms early on into militias, and gradually, as we know, conflict grew between Arab communities and Jewish communities. One thing led to another, and after each successive conflict, if we fast forward between then and now, if you just look at the progress since the agreed split occurred in 1948, where they agreed to do a sort of a 50-50 split. From there onwards, Israel has been taking more and more land through conflicts. It's been saying, we have a war here, we beat the enemy, therefore we take more land. And you just perfectly summarized that with Gaza. It was Egyptian, but because they had a conflict, Israel took it, advanced into Lebanon.
I know a lot. What about something a little bit more difficult? I wonder if you jump and clap behind my back.
What happened in 1948?
I love it.
Shuki, in his defense, we agreed to have like a mutual conversation, like not like time, like you be quiet, I be quiet.
In 1948, a day after the declaration of the State of Israel, 5 nations of Arab nations attacked Israel because they disagreed. They agreed as a defense. So if you attack me and I'm defending myself and getting over you, whatever I took, it's mine. Israel never opened a war.
Yeah,
Do you research? Israel never
researched it very carefully. I've researched all of this.
Obviously not that
Yeah,
carefully.
I have. And then you're missing out part of the story here, because when the United Nations voted to agree to partition Israel, guess what? Not everybody agreed with that. Many nations did not agree. Russia, the USSR didn't agree, so they were pressured, and for some reason they flipped the last minute and voted. That was a crucial vote that approved this plan. The USSR was doing
Green, let him finish. Jeez.
Yeah, that may be correct what he just said, but moving on, the crucial point I'm making here is the point I'm making is on an international level and an internal level, at both scales, there was strong disagreement on this topic. Internationally, many countries to this day never recognized that agreement that the UN voted on, and many Palestinians thought this was an outrage. Why should we, who were living in this country all this time, now we get this division imposed on us where half of our land is taken away from us? And that's why they would have thought there would have been militias who would have thought this would be normal human nature. If the British were living there for 500 years or even 100 years, and the French came in and just said, guess what, guys, we're taking half your land, just deal with it. It's a fair offer. Don't fight back. You think British wouldn't fight? I think the British would fight.
Hey, Rolf, one thing I was going to mention, because I know Shuki's done now. Hold on, Shuki. I was just going to say this. The only problem I have with the two-state solution is legitimizing Gaza while Hamas is there, or at least the ideology. Even if Hamas is destroyed, if the ideology still exists, then it legitimizes Gaza to become its own state. If it becomes its own sovereign state, then it has more legitimacy to then have foreign nations fund them and supply them with munitions and weapons and stuff. And Jesus comes back and creates, or the Messiah or whatever, comes back and creates a utopian society, and everybody just gets along, and God wipes out all the bad people, and we all just get along. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Hopefully it does. Cross fingers. The second option is that either the Palestinians in Gaza relocate because they can't be civilized and they can't fucking just live next to the Israelis, similarly how most of the people in the West Bank, for the most part, do. I mean, they drive around in nice new cars and they live pretty decent lives and shit. I'm not saying it's like living in New York and shit, but I look at videos of people driving in the West Bank and I'm like, holy fuck. I'm like, look at all the Palestinians driving nicer cars than I drive, and nicest cars they drive in Manhattan. I don't think that's a realistic solution, which is after the war is completed, to have some type of military presence there and keep them civilized until their culture evolves to the point where everybody just gets along, where they have close relations, similar to like Japan. The Japanese were willing to fucking throw their babies off cliffs. The Germans were willing to storm the and kill every fucking invader coming in, and were wanting to slaughter everybody that they disagreed with. And eventually we won the war, and we installed our military there and our fucking force, and we forced them to civilize. Similarly, like I said, in Germany, if you look at like Korea, if you look at they didn't, and they let the rest of the people evolve. The same thing. If they end up taking over the submissive 80%, they will eventually just build a new fucking IRGC. And the same thing's going to end up happening with Trump and Iran, hopefully, is that somebody in the press is going to do just like they did in Venezuela when they removed Maduro. The vice president steps up and says, fuck you, America. You stole our president. We're going to engage with war with you, and we're not going to play ball. And eventually they told her, hey, we're going to come and capture you with Delta Force. We're going to bring you to New York City and put you in a fucking cage for the rest of your life. And then she turned around and went, okay. And the same thing's happening in Cuba with Raul Castro. Raul's still running the country, even though I can't remember the other guy's name that's actually the president. But Raul sits down in a little compound and instructs him what to do. And now Raul's coming around and saying, hey, we're going to stop all this fuckery. We're going to, let's talk. Let's let foreign investment come in, because we're sick and tired of all the rolling brownouts and blackouts. And there's no oil and gas, and our country's literally going to starve to death. And you're going to have to do the same thing with Iran. Cuba, and you're gonna have to do the same thing with Hamas. Is you have to destroy that fucking military or the ideology, and the way you do that is to plant your fucking foot there for the next fucking 50 years. Just like you did with Germany. And I think that's the only realistic solution. And unfortunately, there is going to be a lot of women and children are going to die. Like I said with Iran, somebody's going to step up from the top brass that's still there, and they're going to say, hey, I want to become the new Ayatollah. You're still going to have the IRGC, you're still going to have that authoritarian fucking group in power, but you're going to have somebody like Saddam who functioned as a fucking, puppet for the United States all that time until he started gassing the Kurds, and he switched over from the US petrodollar to the euro in 98, and when Saddam got out of line, we fucking took him out. And I mean, unfortunately, that's what's going to happen. You're going to have the same thing in Iran. Somebody's going to have to step up, become the new Ayatollah, become a multi-billionaire. It's totally fine with me. He can become the new Shah if he wants. We don't care. As long as he's willing to not fucking launch rockets around the world and start terrorist proxy groups trying to kill everybody. And I think that's what's going to happen in fucking Gaza eventually, is they're going to decimate all the people that agree with Hamas. And unfortunately, if the statistics are wrong and it's 76%, I don't want to see 76% of the people die. I would rather some new government step up and say, hey, we'll run this shit in Israel. You can park a couple fucking military stations here in Gaza, and we'll play ball for the next 50 years until everybody gets over their shit. We can all fucking get along.
And assimilate, right? And work together.
Yeah, I mean, you would have never thought that Saudi Arabia would be like and Qatar and Emirates.
Never.
And that's what we need. We need everybody to advance civilly.
Hacking, and you're gonna let me respond. Okay,
Great points out.
So, just to be clear, one of the last things you appeared to have said was you're going to be fine if 76% of Gazan civilians are killed.
Oh no, I said I hope not. I said but from the studies that have been conducted on the ideological outview of the people in Gaza, 76% of them support Hamas. That's the biggest problem that we have.
Okay, so just to be clear, you're not sure what to do about people who have an ideology, right? You don't want to be...
For the next 50 years like we did in Japan and Germany.
What you're saying is the Chinese driven away.
Same thing we did in Germany and Japan.
By Israel with a wall around them, completely monitored and policed by Israel, constantly 24 hours, all of their...
No, I'm talking about IDF soldiers.
How could it lead more?
No, Rolf, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm actually going more extreme. Rolf, I'm actually going, real quick, I'm going more extreme than what you're actually characterizing me. Yes, I want IDF soldiers like we do in fucking Germany for the first fucking 20, 30 years, where we had military bases all over the place.
Which brings us into the 70s.
Yeah.
I was in Germany in the 70s.
We didn't have military outposts. We didn't have military bases. We didn't enforce with a heavy hand. The Germans had to stay in line and couldn't go back to the Nazi ideology.
No, there was no oppression. There
Yeah, of
was no
course we did.
policing. The US bases, and it was divided up into UK and US zones. I visited the US zone many times, and they were very integrated in the community.
Yes, I had lots of friends, I had lots of family members in Germany during the 60s and 70s, family members and great uncles and stuff. I had great uncles that were there in the 60s and 70s. They ran military outposts. And they ran
were
fucking
not
border
walking the
checkpoints.
streets. I never saw a single one armed anywhere. They were just hanging out.
Yeah, they all had rifles. They all had rifles and outposts and stuff like that. Yeah,
They did in their outposts, but not on the streets.
Yeah, I
They were
know.
not patrolling the town.
I'm saying that it has
There's
to
a
be
very
more.
big difference.
Rolf, I'm trying to explain to you. It has to
You
be
are
more straight.
absolutely right.
Hold on, Shuki. I agree. It has to be.
Because Germans
They're
are not
Muslim
trying
terrorists.
to murder American soldiers on the street, as opposed to Palestinians that trying to murder Israeli soldiers on the street.
Okay, I've got 5
That's
more
what I'm
minutes.
trying to get at you because the ideology is so much more strong.
I've got 5 more minutes and I'm going to wrap up.
No, they are not
I've got 5 more minutes.
the Muslims. They are European and they are not Muslims.
They're stopping you in the right. So,
No, Rolf, I agree that the Muslim ideology is worse than the Nazi ideology, and I think that we are going to have to have a police state in Gaza until eventually they fucking chill out.
Right.
And if you
Here's
have
my
to
final
fucking,
word on
if you have to remove all the fucking Hamas members and put IDF soldiers on every fucking street corner in Gaza for the next 30 years, I'm fine with that. And the people that want to fuck around, they can find out and they'll get
You
shot.
keep talking over me, that's fine. The Israeli
I agree that your characterization.
far worse. Ideologically
I'm
than a
far worse than your
The Israeli cult is a psychotic maniac.
I agree that my position is worse than what you're trying to characterize. You're trying to say, oh, it's A. I'm trying to say, no, it's B, and B is actually worse. Right? Like fucking stupid.
You're going furthermore.
Yes, he's like, oh my god, you're saying they should have military bases. I'm like, no. They should have IDF soldiers on every fucking street corner in Gaza for the next 30 years until the next generation comes along and goes, maybe we shouldn't fucking fight. Maybe we should just like buy Mercedes and BMWs and like eat fucking shawarma and hummus like all the people in the West Bank. Like, we should just chill the fuck out. I agree with a police state for the next 30, 40 years. And he's like, they didn't do that in Germany. I'm like, yeah, but the Muslim ideology is worse than the fucking Nazi ideology. And it's worse than the fucking Japanese, because when we dethrone their fucking emperor, then they all chilled the fuck out. Like, we dropped 2 atomic bombs, they chilled the fuck out. And we stationed fucking military bases all over their country, and now they're our closest allies. And now they don't fucking cause any problems. And that's what we gotta do in Gaza.
Yeah, right. This is what we did in Japan. Twice.
That's what America did in Berlin. They got Berlin all that.
Yep. And can I just say something? In this case, you cannot do it because you have Pakistan. If you do that, Pakistan will do that to Israel.
We can do. You know why, CJ? You know why Israel can do that? Do you want to know the reason why we can? Because the United States. Because the United States. I know, CJ. I'm not screaming. I'm talking. I'm saying outside smoking a cigarette. Listen, fucking faggot. Shut your fucking revert fucking mouth.
You're American.
Listen here. So that's exactly my point, is that the United States has contingencies. If you go watch the Sean Ryan show, he was talking to a woman who's an expert in thermonuclear weapons. Shut your mouth. No one cares. No. Somebody mom me up so I can mute him.
If you don't shut the fuck up.
I know, you're going to go to the audience. So, and I'll just talk to the fucking rest of the room. I'm fine with that. The contingency is that Sean Ryan was asked, he asked the woman who's an expert. Alright, move to the audience. Move to the audience. I'll talk to the rest.
Real, but take it easy.
Okay. Yeah, so the contingency is that he asked her, he said, what if North Korea actually fires an intercontinental ballistic missile at the United States or one of our territories? And she said the automatic contingency is, I know he's got the RGC flag, it's crazy, but the automatic response is we have a contingency that they will fire 82 thermonuclear weapons at North Korea. And then Sean Ryan asked the woman who's an expert on ICBMs, he said, how many nukes would it take to wipe out the entire country of North Korea? She plainly responded, just very simply, 82. And that's what will happen to Pakistan. If it takes 140 fucking nukes to take Pakistan out, that's already targeted. That's already fucking set up for any contingency. Pakistan fires 1 nuke, we fire 30 fucking nukes, and the entire country's gone. Every square inch of Pakistan will no longer fucking exist. The United States already has these contingencies set up for the president. They come in, they say, Mr. President, Pakistan just fired a nuke at fucking Israel or India, and the president says, okay, let's do the contingency. He turns the fucking key, puts in his code, does his voice, whatever, thumbprint, finger, fucking whatever, and then 130, say, nukes will instantly shoot at fucking Pakistan, and the entire country's gone. Every single solitary Pakistani in Pakistan is turned into fucking subatomic particles. That's what you're talking about, CJ. That's why Pakistan will never use nukes. Bring his faggot ass back.
So, in other words, it's kind of like when
Come on,
David
faggot.
made.
Come on, faggot.
Yeah, come.
Come on,
I'll get him up. I'll get him up.
It's not. Yeah. Greenville. It's not mutual destruction like these people want to make it sound.
No, it's not.
Only with China and Russia. And if we eviscerate fucking Pakistan off the face there, guess what China and Russia is probably not going to do? They're not going to do anything because we got another fucking 300 nukes pointed at Russia and another 300 nukes pointed at fucking China. And they know that if we wipe Pakistan off the face there, then they attack us like all these fucking retards think. We're going to wipe them off the face of the earth too. And then they're going to wipe us off the face of the earth.
What do you think?
And we should. We've shown with our fucking
Israel has.
we've shown with our fucking fired fucking surface-to-air missile systems. We've already shot down their hypersonic missiles.
The other question I have,
Like Iran.
I'm sorry.
Like Iran, and what Iran did, Iran also was playing like she is a tiger. Came Israel and within 12 days showed that they are less than a paper tiger. Way less. It was a paper pussycat.
Just remove the cat.
Yeah, we've shown country. We sent in Green Berets to train the entire continent, and we left all those just laying there because the United States is legally not under our fucking rules. We're not allowed to fund terrorists. But what really happens when we pull out? The Chinese Communist Party and the Russian Federation both try to invade Afghanistan, and what are they being shot at with? The same thing that we were being.
Budget shortfall driven by the high cost of the war in Iran. It's forcing military readiness cutbacks. There is a stalled emergency funding request in Congress, which we've alluded to before in this room. Key details include a requested $67 billion supplemental package, shifted funds from baseline military training and maintenance, and depleted precision munition stockpiles. So what does that all mean? Those are words. Is that a word salad, or does that actually make sense, Gary? Well, let me break it down a little bit. There is an immediate cash crunch, according to the Washington Post. Critical military operational accounts are set to run dry within weeks. There is a readiness impact to all of this. According to the Post, the military has canceled training exercises and delayed base upkeep to pay for ongoing combat operations. The congressional gridlock to which I alluded, Hegseth has been pressing lawmakers for emergency funds, but Congress has delayed action because of political pushback. A good portion of that, as we've discussed here before, is that they haven't been able to explain, according to the members of Congress, both Democratic and Republican, what they want to specifically use the monies for. So a lot of this is the fault of the administration, seemingly, not being able to make their case to Congress. But here's the impact on the Iranian war effort. But I don't think we should just look at the impact on the Iranian war effort. Because some people feel like we ought not to be in this war anyway. Who cares if it affects the Iranian war effort? But there is a cascading residual effect to all of this that I think we need to really look into. So with regard to the Iranian war effort, munitions are strained. According to the Washington Post, high expenditure on interceptors and strikes means that the United States is burning through costly precision-guided weapons faster than they can be replaced. Now we're in a situation now where the president seemingly wants to order an uptick in this war. But if you're running out of munitions, how do you do that? If even without this uptick, we are expending the munitions faster than they can be replaced, well, how in the hell are you going to increase the military pressure on forces' reliance on shifting funds from other global defense priorities? So that complicates the long-term campaign plan, running out of money right now because of the Iran war. Because as I said, there are those who say, good. I'm not making this argument. But it's not our fight. Let's get the hell out, and now we're forced to get out. There will be people who say that. But as a result of all this, there's a strategic readiness gap. We already, as Ansa pointed out yesterday, even before this war, and now this is an accelerated problem or a magnified problem. We've already deferred maintenance. Ansa is probably chomping at the bit right now to give us over which he's an expert. Deferred maintenance. How many gray holes are dry docked right now or sitting at port, and for how long? Are we ready? Should there be an actual threat to our nation? Anyway, deferred maintenance. There's reduced training. I don't think you have to be a military expert to recognize that creates vulnerabilities in other global regions if forces are unprepared. Think Asia. Think Taiwan. Think North Korea. Think China. I mean, really? Is that where we put ourselves right now? This vulnerability? The depleted stockpiles, the low supplies of advanced munitions, obviously, you don't have to be a military expert like Anson to know that weakens our overall deterrence capabilities against other major adversaries. And some of you alluded to this yesterday as well, talking about how Russia and China and North Korea and perhaps others are looking at this saying, gee, the United States is forcing itself into becoming some kind of a paper tiger. Now, I don't know whether that's actually true, but certainly based on the reporting in the Washington Post today, the article says, the title of the article is "The Pentagon Sinking Billions into Iran War is Quickly Running Out of Money." Their lead is the Pentagon faces an urgent budget shortfall caused largely by the war in Iran, with some critical lines of funding set run out within weeks. That's the top to their story. And there is a cascading effect beyond the military, right? And again, I'm not an economic expert, but I don't think you need to be one to recognize that massive wartime spending adds pressure to national debt limits. It affects Gary's analysis. There's a potential restricting of future defense agility. Not good is how I would rate this. NG, not good. So the question is, presuming the Washington Post is correct, the Pentagon is running out of cash. But I asked the question, is the Pentagon running out of cash? And of course, implied here is, what the hell does that mean and what do we do about it? So with that introduction, I will start grabbing you guys and demanding that you speak into the microphone. And I will start today with Scott, followed by...
Yeah, I actually read this article and I was going to do a room about it earlier today because I thought it was really interesting. Yeah, I mean, headsets kind of got to go hand in hand now, apparently to the hill. Yeah, I think this is the realities of war, right? And war is not free. I mean, I think there's a twin factor. A, as you said, guys, the war is unpopular. And no, that doesn't mean it's wrong. I mean, you know, or right. But I mean, you have to factor this in. I think that one thing any commander-in-chief now, for the foreseeable future, has to take into consideration is that you take military action in the wake of Afghanistan, which we left horribly, Iraq too, which was wildly unpopular and largely looked at as a failure. If you were doing this stuff after Iraq 1, it's very different, right? After Iraq 1 was one of the most capable demonstrations of American power in my memory. I mean, it was just so clean, and it was on TV, and we just, we looked impressive, and it looked as though American power had a fantastic role in the world, and it could be used quite adroitly. That's not how we feel these days. I mean, Donald Trump largely is president because of the failures of neocon foreign policy and adventurism abroad. So you have to keep that in mind, right? And the Congress has the purse strings, right? And so you've got to keep that in mind when you're asking for money. And yeah, I mean, this is you got to procure funds for a war that a lot of people don't want to support, right? I mean, congressmen remember what happened to people like Hillary Clinton, who was torpedoed in 2 presidential runs for, well, at least 2008 for sure. It was extremely costly for her casting the vote in approval of Iraq 2. I mean, Obama, fortunately, was on record as a state senator in some anti-war speech that, that really helped his candidacy. I mean, made his candidacy in many ways. So, yeah, I think it's tough. It's tough to make a case for an unpopular war and increasing funding in an unpopular war, especially when the deficit is so massive. I mean, and it continues to grow. All these things add up to, I think, a Herculean task for the Secretary of War.
So you spoke about how this is really very interesting, and I don't know whether you intended to go there, but you talked about how Iraq won, how we and Bernard Shaw were standing there in Baghdad while the bombs were. I guess that was the second. Was that the first Iraq War when that happened? I think so, right? It's what put CNN on the map. Now, CNN is not the same news organization it was then. To its detriment, I believe. They used to go and cover the stories. Now they sit around and talk about the stories. It's a completely different dynamic than it was even when I was working at CNN Radio. We covered stories back then. We didn't sit around blah, 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 blahing about the stories. So, we don't have that kind of transparency here. We don't have reporters on platforms overlooking the Strait of Hormuz telling us whether there are ships going by or not, showing us with their cameras whether there are ships going by. So we rely on pronouncements by the administration and counter-pronouncements by the Iranians. And I got to tell you, when it comes to the veracity of all this, Scott, and there's a lot of bullshit coming out of the mouth of the propagandists in Tehran, on that particular issue, they've been more spot on than our president has been. We pointed that out yesterday. How the White House said, hang on, don't worry about the high fuel costs because they will plummet as soon as we open the Strait of Hormuz. But at the same time, the president is saying the Strait of Hormuz is open. And both of those messagings come out of the White House. The former White House spokesperson, an official statement. The latter, the President of the United States, a true social posting. So which isn't? We talked yesterday, you can't prosecute a war without the support, successfully, without the support of the populace. Nobody's really making an attempt to show us there may be, as you point out, very solid reasons for this war. But I don't know what in the minds of the administration those reasons are. I mean, I have my own personal beliefs, as do you. But I don't know in the mind of the administration because they haven't articulated it. Had they articulated it properly to the Congress, perhaps they would have gotten the appropriations they need so that it wouldn't have drained our military's capability to the point that, God forbid, we feel that we are safe because somebody talked about it yesterday. The United States is isolated from the rest of the world. And it's so simple these days, like it was, during World War II, for example, when there was very little. There was some, but there was very little to the homeland. It's a different twined. For some reason, the government is reticent to explain to us how things are intertwined. I don't know why, but there you have it. There's little real reporting except in specific news organizations that focus on that, but in the areas where the general public goes for their information, there's very little credible information that's being really fed to the American people. It's there if you want to look for it, but you gotta look for it. It's not being spoon fed to us, and we are lazy. We want it all spoon fed to us. So, I don't know why. I'm not saying it wouldn't be dangerous, but what CNN did during the Gulf War was dangerous too. And I know you can't set up a platform on the Iranian side of the Gulf, of the Strait, but you certainly can in Oman. I don't know why we're not seeing daily images coming from Oman. When the war in Ukraine began, we watched on whichever cable channel we preferred. We could see what was going on there. We could see as the bombs came in. We had reporters on the ground telling us what was happening. One reporter at Fox was gravely wounded covering the war. It's dangerous work, war corresponding, but it's very important work indeed. All of this, I think, contributes to where we are today, Scott. A populace and a Congress that just can't, as much as maybe some want to be supportive, they just can't be supportive. And now, as a result of that, we're running out of money to run the military. And as I said in my opening remarks, my concern may be more towards the global impacts of this than the regional in the Middle East. I don't know where this leaves us. I think it leaves freedom-loving countries all very vulnerable. But maybe that's something that a lot of people don't understand as well.
Yeah, and I mean, this is interesting, right? Because not only do you this administration engage in military conflict in a post-Afghanistan, post-Iraq world country, but also it's in an age. I mean, there's a skepticism about international institutions. It's one of the reasons I think Trump got elected, and also he's damaged the relationships further with those institutions, right? So, I mean, it's tough because we also have to go it alone, right? Which increases the cost of these kinds of endeavors, right? So, yeah, I mean, it's a big matzo ball game.
I don't think it was very nice of you to denigrate matzo balls that way. I'm a big supporter of matzo balls. Thank you, Scott. We'll go to Anson, who I'm really interested in hearing from today, especially, and followed by Abe.
Well, first of all, it's been almost 40 years since I was in the Pentagon, which was my last duty station. So I'm not an expert on any of this kind of stuff now. Is the Pentagon running out of cash? I doubt it. If you've got a carrier battle group that's just in the United States and conducting training and goes to sea periodically, but you've got the personnel, whether they're in the Gulf or whether they're sitting in Norfolk, you're still going to have the cost of the force, the cost of doing maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. So the reason the war is draining money out of the Pentagon very fast is because the operating tempo, which burns a tremendous amount of fuel, other than for the nuclear ships, fuel and aviation gas, and ammunition. Now, we've been drawing down on our precision guided missiles ever since the beginning of the war in February. And so the depletion, and we're not going to you're not going to keep up with the firing rate of Patriot missiles by replenishing them from the current industrial chain that produces Patriot missiles. You're going to run out. At some point, you'll run out of Patriot missiles and THAAD, the high altitude, the THAAD missiles. Those things that cost multiple millions of dollars for one bullet against one missile, and you have to fire multiple bullets to knock down even an Iranian ballistic missile. So the burn rate for those things is very high, but the Pentagon can move some money around, but it's very difficult to do. It's very difficult to keep track of all these things. Imagine trying to keep track of close to $1 trillion a year. What was the budget for 26? 800, 900 billion dollars a year. How do you keep track of all that money? And it's hard to do. And the thing that I read the Post article, and you're absolutely right, Gary. It's he said, she said. You have experts that are contradicting so-called experts that are contradicting what's coming out of, quote, the experts within the administration. Well, who's telling the truth? I can't figure it out when I read the Washington Post. I don't know who's telling the truth. I get the sense that a lot of the anti-administration experts are, a lot of them are right out of the Biden administration. So of course, I don't have any idea. During the first go on the first day because nobody really articulated what the hell we were trying to do. And we still, I don't articulate what the goals of this war are. Is it regime change? Is it, is it something to do with nuclear weapons? Is it the freedom of the seas? Is it an amalgamation? How do you determine if the seas are free? And as far as people on the scenes, Gary, to take pictures, the second Gulf War was the first time, I think, that we actually embedded reporters on the front lines. Remember, and they were in Baghdad. We saw pictures of bombs going off in Baghdad. Shock and awe was Iraq II. That was the invasion of Iraq. Shock and awe was not articulated by anybody during Iraq I. Iraq I was the first time we saw pictures after the fact of precision-guided missiles hitting trucks and tanks and small buildings and that kind of thing. That's the first time we ever saw that kind of imagery coming out of war. And today we're seeing it. CENTCOM is publishing those photographs. But what do those photographs mean? I can't tell I can't figure out how many days have we been since the MOU went south. What is it, 11 days now that we've been executing air raids on the nation of Iran. And I think pretty much almost all of those have been along southern Iran to try to somehow prevent them from closing the Straits of Hormuz. And we've been unsuccessful in doing that. So you could take, if you chartered helicopters in Oman, you could take pictures of ships moving in and out of the Straits or not moving in and out of the Straits. But those pictures, again, they have to be interpreted by people that know what they're talking about. We've had it was a report that an oil tanker was hit by, quote, unidentified objects, caught fire, the crew got into lifeboats and abandoned ship. And we haven't seen picture one of that, nor have I heard the United States acknowledge that in fact has happened. I don't know whether it has or not. I don't think any ships have been sunk. And I think a few fires have taken place on ships. But I don't know what the freedom of navigation looks like in the Straits of Hormuz right now. The other thing that was so astounding to me is the House is getting ready to go on a month-long vacation. Well, here we are needing cash in order to continue to conduct a limited war to some extent, and Congress is going on a month-long vacation. Is that not astounding? And if you were going to go on a vacation, anybody in this room, let's say you were going to go on you had a budget for a $10,000 vacation, and you planned your vacation, but then you kept changing where you were going to go and how long you were going to stay, and rather than a 2-week vacation to Europe, you decided you were going to go to Russia and you were going to go to China, and who knows what the budget was for the vacation. You're just spending money out of your trust fund or wherever it is. You cannot budget a war if you don't know what you're trying to achieve in the war. You can't even accurately budget a war when you know exactly what you want to achieve, but you can get a much greater feel for it. And finally, the people that are opposed to the war, they want the Pentagon to run out of money. They want the war to come to a close this week because they don't have enough money to buy gasoline to put jets in the air over Iran. Is that the right way for the nation to be engaged in armed conflict? Of course it's not. And it's astounding that it's continuing to take place. The Pentagon doesn't know where the money is. They're not sure. They're not exactly sure what authority they have to move money from one bucket to another. And you'll have lawyers on both sides screaming at each other, saying, "Yes, you can. No, you can't." It's astounding. And it's just a perpetuation of the frustration and the angst and the anger and the disgust that I expressed yesterday. And I don't see us. I don't know how we're going to come out of this thing. I think if the Democratic Party has their way, we're going to have to withdraw 2 carrier battle groups from the Middle East because we don't have the money to support 2 carrier battle groups, and we certainly don't have the money to buy the bullets needed for the carrier battle groups. Is that the right way to conduct an the use of our military? Of course it's not, and yet we're doing it. So so be it. I don't know what else I can say other than to sound frustrated, which of course I am.
You know, even the sinking of the Lusitania, which led to World War I, there's one image that survived. It was water damaged, it's blurry, but there was a, this is 1915, ladies and gentlemen, a guy named Robert McCormick,
who was a passenger to one of the Sabres. I'm looking it up to remind me about all this. He took 5 photos with a pocket camera. 2 were taken on the promenade deck just prior to the torpedo hit. The final 3 were snapped as the ship went down. Because he had to jump into the ocean, the film suffered severe saltwater damage. The surviving images are heavily distorted. But there are images. Now, we are in an age of digital photography that is transmitted simultaneously to the cloud for safe keeping and safe passage. And yet, as you point out, supposedly the ship, people died and they had to abandon the ship. There might have been sailors or seamen in the water even that had to be rescued. And we've got nothing on it. Nothing, zero, zilch, nada. Today, in 2026, it's just astounding how little we really know about what's going on in an age of instant communications that the common man has access to, Hanson.
I'm not sure pictures, a picture of a sinking oil tanker would be used, I suspect, not to continue the war. I think it would be used as an excuse to to just get the hell out of there and let somebody else figure out how to enforce freedom of navigation in the Straits of Hormuz. What if we were able to get a picture of an Aegis class cruiser with sailors in lifeboats, and the bridge and the superstructure of that cruiser was engulfed in flames, and we don't know how many died, but you can bet that there would be hundreds that would be dead. Would that cause us to continue to prosecute the war, or would that reinforce? Let's get the hell out of there. Let's pull clear. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to execute any other military action anywhere near Iraq or in the Middle East. We're going to withdraw to the bastions of the United States and let somebody else worry about it. That's there are people that want to see us do that. I don't, but there are plenty of people that would love to see us do that.
But at least we would know what's really going on. It's just, as you said, he said, she said, who do we believe?
Does the United States Navy have the ability to fully enforce a naval blockade against Iran? And does the United States Navy have the ability to ensure safe navigation for all ships going through the Straits of Hormuz? I think the answer to that is no. I don't think we have the military capability to be able to do that. To say that I don't think we have the ability to do it, not on a sustained basis. And that's what Iran, that's what Iran is betting on, that they're going to keep creating brush fires, so to speak, in and around the Middle East. And at some point, the United States is just going to say, well, we've run out of money. Congress is on vacation. They won't give us any more money. We can't pay for the gas, the bullets, and the people. So we're going to withdraw all of our naval forces and our air forces back to permanent bases in the United States. That's what some people want us to do, and that's where there's some of the experts that are speaking as experts to try to achieve that goal. And there are other experts that want to put, want to go in for unconditional surrender with full up ground forces, multiple divisions of American boots on the ground in order to execute a regime change. That's as ridiculous as the alternative of let's withdraw to the bastions of the United States and let somebody else worry about the geopolitics. And I don't know where we're going to come out in between those two, but it's scary to think about.
Thank you, Anson. We'll move to Agent, followed by Steve.
Gary, it's good to be here. I just wanted to respond to the title. I know the Secretary of War testified the other day about, I think he said something on the order of $35 billion has been spent. It seemed like dramatically underestimated. Maybe it's
we have prosecutions and misconduct or scandals or cover-ups.
Think about it. A lot of it's budgets that
Thank you, Mr. President.
Normal operating expense.
I understand this resolution. I understand the seriousness of any time.
Kind of how you look
we
at
have prosecutions and misconduct or scandals or cover-ups.
The purpose of the military is for these war operations. So how much was spent
guilty of
for what
such
time.
should have to pay the penalty. But I think us as a body, as a city council, I also believe that we should stand our lane.
I think the
obviously
unlimited I think that almost the purpose of the
U.S. attorney is appointed by the president of the United States Senate. I think we, in our own backyard, as a city council, need to
being the global hegemon, enforcing global order through military strength, ultimately, backed ultimately by military strength. And so I don't think in that sense, there is no out of money. There's so many levers that are infrastructure. Before the U.S. is completely out of all military.
Hey friends, Aaron Delmont here, your candidate for Lieutenant Governor. I'm here in downtown Chicago right now, off of Belmont. I'm outside of Mocker Media. Mocker Media is the podcast studio for Adam Mocker. You may recognize it. Fellas, if you move
political reports, the FBI director Kash Patel is headed to Russia.
I'm really struggling, almost the premise of the title here, to think when has it really been that running out of money has been the meaningfully shifted its priorities when it comes to support? I don't think that's. I think that's the purpose. Money disappears when you support in order to feed the beast. I don't know. That's just how I see it. As far as someone was saying, what is the purpose?
On the first day,
I think it's pretty obvious. I think number one, there was a legitimate clear threat. Nobody said Israel, but Israel, the elephant in the room,
in a building that is controlled by
what's driving all of this
real estate organization.
Who's being, I think that's clearly important, and nobody, it's just
on the first day
uncomfortable for people for various reasons to just say, we'll just name it, I guess. But the U.S. is inextricably married to Israel, and now there's moves to merge the intelligence apparatus, the military apparatus, when it comes to giving benefits and recognitions to people. There's things that they keep trying to slip into bills that say if you've served in the IDF, it's considered equivalent to having served in the U.S. military, so for veterans benefits and things like this. So it's just, this is the way we're going. We sort of have a two-state nation, in a sense.
I think you're now crossing a line.
I'll walk it back a little bit. I don't mean to get carried away on that, but the point is, this is important, but the other, so we've accomplished the nuclear objective, which was to maintain some stability in the world on a number of levels. And then the second thing is, we've always maintain freedom of navigation. We've been the navy of the world to maintain this. This is just, it's fallen on us. And if we allow things to go to hell, if we allow pirates to or nations to hold other nations hostage, especially allies, especially strategic resource producing allies, hold everyone hostage or for ransom or whatever it is, credibility falls apart. The whole apparatus starts to disintegrate, and we're not. There's been some political camps. I used to be a fan of Ron Paul. I mean, in some ways I still am, but there's that. I'm not all the way. Certainly his way of thinking, which is like we should just be completely isolationist, let the chips fall where they will in the rest of the world, which would just be war and chaos, and it would be World War III, where everyone fighting amongst each other for to reestablish what the U.S. is providing ultimately, which is that splitting. So the U.S. has to step up. We're the only ones resourced to do so. We've had almost a sort of monopoly on naval enforcement. So if we let it go, then we'll let everything else.
After we hang up the phone,
I don't think the U.S. is ready to do that. I don't think money then is no issue when it comes to this. And but the problem is, of course, it's very cheap. We're in with the drone era. You don't have the will to do boots on the ground. I think they may drive us to that point. It's really up to Iran. People running the RGC, they are apocalyptic. They're death cults in many ways. And they want to push things as far as they'll go until they're all wiped out. And if we back down, then they totally win and they can dominate the region, right? And it's just going to be more war. There's going to still be a war with Saudi, possibly. There's going to be a war with Israel, who they've really pledged. Their mission is about destroying Israel. So, that's what's going to go. So, you're between a rock and a hard place here. And I do think it's going to get worse, a lot worse before it gets better, just because of the asymmetry that's present. And to actually get them to stop being able to choke off this region, it's going to take overwhelming force, unfortunately. We haven't built up to that yet. We haven't done anything. We're totally peaceful. Because Iran is not a rational actor. Thank you.
So I don't find it uncomfortable to talk about the Israeli aspect of all this. The Iranian government has two Satans in their crosshairs. The first one is Israel. The second one is the United States of America. Because of proximity, obviously, Israel faces an immediate existential threat on a daily basis from Iran. Especially given the fact that they fund the terrorists in the Middle East who have been attacking Israel, including on October the 7th, most notably on October the 7th. But I think your comments about this, which I interrupted you over something that you said, and you backtracked on it, yes, is indicative of lack of understanding that a lot of people have.
I think it's time we just
threat that the Iranian regime presents to the world, and how their ideology is such that they want to take over and force their theology, which is their politics, upon other nations of the world, including the nations of Europe. And anybody who has an understanding of the real threat that Iran presents gets this. It's real easy to reduce this to the headline, Bibi, you didn't say this, but Bibi made Trump do this kind of thing. No, it's far more complex than that. Every administration has recognized this threat. Each has a different approach to it for various reasons, and there is no good approach. The JCPOA was considered a compromise that at least kicks the can down the road. There are many who felt that that was not really addressing the problem, the issue, the threat that Iran presents. And by the way, the JCPOA was targeting Iran's nuclear weapons capabilities and aspirations. And that's not just Israel. All of the Gulf states fear Iran. These are Arab nations now, which Iran is not. But the Arab nations fear a nuclear-armed Iran almost as much as does Israel. So it's kind of almost a naive approach to the issue. Now, you mentioned bills in Congress to give American citizens who are IDF veterans benefits. There is one bill, not bills, one. And it was introduced by two members of Congress, both Republicans, one from Pennsylvania and one from Ohio, which aims to amend Title 38 of the United States Code. It would offer educational, it would not offer educational GI benefits, but it would extend specific active duty safeguards found that American service veterans enjoy for employment and reemployment rights under the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Act. I'm reading this from the synopsis. You can look it up, HR 8445. Go to congress.gov. You'll read exactly what I'm reading. That are given to American citizens, would be given to American servicemen, would be given to American citizens who have served in the IDF. But so what? So two guys entered a bill, big deal. There's zero support for the bill in Congress. There are huge legislative hurdles. People introduce bills all the time that they know don't stand a snowball's chance in hell. And there's a lot of pushback against the bill. Nobody is taking it seriously. The leadership of the House, although they are Republicans and the House is controlled by Republicans, have not moved the bill forward. And so it's not even worth mentioning. I guess you can mention it by saying, yes, it is a fact that such a bill has been introduced, but to suggest that, it's a serious attempt to extend and merge the IDF with the U.S. military, no, it's not an attempt to do that in the least. Even on the face of it, it would not merge anything. It would just extend certain benefits to Americans who fight for the IDF. By the way, personally, I would not support such legislation. If you want to go fight for the IDF, you can have dual citizenship and go fight for the IDF, and then whatever benefits you can gain through Israel's system, then you should gain from Israel's system. It has nothing to do with the United States, but it's not anything that stands any chance of passing. And I just want to minimize any impact your statement might have made, that might suggest to some people otherwise. Z followed by Ian, or Ian, or however you want to pronounce it. Ian? Agent. Thank you. Z, you're up.
Hey, thanks, Gary. Thanks, everybody who's spoken. Well, I don't know a lot about all this stuff because I never followed politics and I never really followed all the ins and the outs of how our government worked, whether it was in D.C. or down to the city-town level. But what I do have is some life experience and just you know, you see patterns happening and stuff like that. So, you know, we're not legally or functionally bankrupt, but I believe that our country has been bankrupt prior to this. And the reason why I say that is because the U.S. does control its own currency, and it can mint money to pay debts. And so somehow we're staying out of some kind of weird bankruptcy if any kind of bankruptcies happened earlier than the 2008 financial crisis, I'm unaware of that. But there seems to be a lot of problems since that happened. And there was a lot of social and economic and political things have been uncovered since this financial crisis with the houses and the paper and all that bad money or whatever it was. So I think that our country has been in a financial crisis since at least 2008. And it's just, nobody wants to say that we are. It's kind of shoved under the rug. And so I'm not surprised that there's a huge deficit now. When I look at the numbers, it's hard to understand how the numbers got so high. And also I want to point out, I find it to be interesting that Mr. Trump was making fun of at least Russia and maybe even Iran and maybe the people who were fighting someplace else. Sorry, guys. That he was making fun of those people they're running out of money. They're running out of stuff. They got nothing, right? And then here it is back to his face. So it's just bizarre, I think, sometimes what comes out of the mouths of people is actually what is happening here. But it's like trajected out towards this other group. Well, they're broke, but we're fine. So that's not true, because right now, what's happening in the USA is that their programs like Medicare and like all the food programs are all being cut. They're all cut. And I'm not going to get into all the different ways about it, but there are people suffering in my little zip code who don't have food, who have no medical care, and are on waiting list to see a doctor till 2028. And the other one that was hysterical was, we can see you in 2030. We're going to make you an appointment. So you guys can go do the research on that if you want to. But so in terms of the bankruptcy of this country, and is the Pentagon running out of money? Absolutely. Who knows where all this money went? That's a lot of money just to run around and end up in funny little pockets someplace. I also was like, hey, I was born in 61, Vietnam. That war was nonsense and baloney. Of course, I had no idea that it was, and I was saluting the flag and standing there during the whole thing, and MIA bracelets and POW and going on walks, and I didn't even know what was going on. I just saw the pictures in the magazines and thought, holy shit, I got to do something. And little kids running away from bombs. I mean, I'm like, what the heck? So that's like stuff that's been going on. So then I did ask the computer, I'm like, how long have we been at war? Well, what's going on with this country this country is warmongering everywhere. I don't know why, except that it seems like that in this country, in the United States, the people in Washington are so paranoid and scared about whatever they've been doing and their dirty things they've been doing all over the place that they're so paranoid and scared they got to go out and bomb everybody else. I know, Steve, you're laughing at me, and it's okay. I really appreciate you, and I've learned a lot from you. I am still kind of ignorant, and I'm learning. But the thing is, when I looked all this stuff up, there's a ton of wars. And if they're not called wars, they're called conflicts, they're called incursion. I'm like, who came up with this? So that now, as long as you don't use the word war, you can call it these other names. And I just can't even read them all to you guys. It's like, there's a ton of them. And I just wish that, I wish what everybody wishes. I just do not believe that we humans should be fighting each other to the point of our own self-destruction, to
to the point where you've got people who work their asses off their whole life who now can't have food, and you've got kids who are watching and listening to everything the adults are doing. That's in every land. This is what kids do, and it just makes me incredibly sad, very angry that this is, born into a world of war, and it's still going on. But I'm grateful that I live in a country that I can say these things, and that I can disagree with people, and that I can make reports if I have to. Even if, I am grateful for anybody who laid their life down for people here. And that's a lot of men and women. And that's the other part, is it kind of makes me want to cry, because it's like disrespecting people who already gave their life. And we just continue to loop in this bizarre, kind of insane thing while people say they believe in God. This is hard for me. So I just wanted to say that and to say thanks. And I really do love all you guys, even if I disagree with you. I'm learning, and we're going to have disagreements anyhow. So thanks for having me up. And to everybody listening, I love you guys too. And thanks for participating and being here. And I'm done speaking. Thanks.
Thank you, Z. Well, straight from the heart for sure. So Medicaid and SNAP, which used to be called food stamps.
Food stamps, yeah.
Yeah, they experienced unbelievable reductions from the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and I would think that people who lost some of those benefits would question why that act would be called the One Big Beautiful Bill, because to them it certainly was not. It's the largest legislative cut to health care and food assistance programs in U.S. history. It cut $187 billion with a B from SNAP over a 10-year window. And there are restrictions to who can qualify now. You have to work or attempt to work or something like that. And there are income deductions and immigrant eligibility bans. And SNAP Ed was a nutrition program, a program to provide nutrition education to low-income communities. In other words, instead of eating chips, this is what you should be eating healthy. Gone. Medicaid, I think you said Medicare, but I know you meant Medicaid.
Yeah, no, Medicare has been cut. I'm not kidding.
I don't know about Medicare, but Medicaid has been cut by $1 trillion. $1 trillion. So, I know that the United States has shouldered a lot of responsibility for maintaining the peace worldwide, and that's extremely costly. But if you look at some of the other nations of the world, you see that from the cradle to the grave, they take care of their people in a manner in which we do not. And if you look at the medical outcomes, there are some countries that you would consider third world. Oh, I would never go there. I hope if I ever travel there, I won't get sick. Well, statistically, the outcomes in some of those countries are better than they are in the United States. So we're not, I think there's some things we're not doing correctly. Thank you, Z. We'll go to Ann, followed by Steve. It's Ann like an Ann Rand, right?
Correct. So I'm looking at usdebtclock.org. Total U.S. debt is at $40 trillion. That's $114,000 per U.S. citizen, and for the debt per taxpayer, it's $356,000. Total U.S. debt is at $113 trillion. The reason why I bring these up is because we've already lost almost 20 Americans fighting Iran and hundreds of U.S. soldiers injured. The cost is at over $100 billion now with this war. I know a lot of titles are clickbait titles, but truly, America has papered over our conflicts for well over 100 years, and we don't even win the wars. And if you look at what's happening in Russia with Ukraine, the Ukrainians just launched a massive blitz with hundreds of attack drones, and the cost of those attack drones are insignificant compared to the amount of money that we're pouring into our ineffective weapon systems. We have nuclear weapons. If we want to win this war and half of their country is in military garb, we could detonate nuclear weapons on the largest cities in Iran and devastate them and win the war overnight. But we wouldn't have to spend another $100 billion or lose hundreds of more of U.S. soldiers. We could win the war with our technology, with atomics, with nuclear weapons. But do we have the willpower to kill millions of innocent Iranians? Do we have the will to win? We do not. But we have the will to fund a global military industrial complex, because it's not just American corporations, it's European corporations sucking at our congressional deficits. It's not just Americans profiting from this war. It is Europeans, Italians, Germans, French, British, all profiting off of our deficit spending. And so all I want to say is that thank God we have Donald Trump, because this is a pressure cooker. And we've ripped the bandage off, and every night we are devastating Iran with new, fresh attacks. And we will have the weapons and the will, as long as we have our glorious orange MAGA president, to exact the will of this war, which has been cooking for 40 plus years. And finally, we've taken out the most radical, evil Islamic terrorists on planet Earth. These aren't Japanese practicing Zen, flying kamikazes. These are apocalyptic Islamic terrorist pirates. And I am so glad that Donald Trump is our president instead of alcoholic Kamala Harris. Thank God we have a warrior president willing.
There's evidence to support that she's an alcoholic. So
She is an alcoholic. Didn't you see her 4th of July party photos and videos? She was swearing. She drinks gin and vodka all day long. But that's not important. What's important is that we're going to win this war, no matter how long it takes, or how many Iranians we have to kill, or how many hundreds of billions we have to spend. We're going to win this war because Donald Trump is a winner and America is a winning nation. Finally, thank you all for listening. I am complete.
Well, first of all, figures when personal aspersions such as you just did. So please restrain yourself in the future. And secondly, the discussion today is how they don't have the money to prosecute this war. So it sounds to me that what you're just articulating is no more than wishful thinking. How, if they don't have the munitions, they're expending more munitions than they are developing, how is this great savior of humanity from this Islamic fundamentalist regime going to affect what you just said?
He's fired. I mean, I don't know if you guys just saw the whole.
I don't think it's your turn. I don't think it's your turn.
Did you guys see the interview with Pete?
But I think you have to wait your turn.
But did you guys watch the interview with Pete Hegseth? Did you watch
it? So there you go from the stage. I just told you it was not your
Gary.
I don't know if you sound like you're an English-speaking individual.
Gary, America.
Your turn. And could you answer my question?
Gary, America is spending almost $100 billion a month on interest expense and $100 billion a month on our military-industrial complex, which is primarily our Navy, our Army, our Air Force, our Marines, our Coast Guard. When our creditors are receiving all this interest expense, but providing no product or service, at least our military at the cost of $100 billion a month.
Question, and I would like you to answer the question that I asked you.
if it's costing us more to expend weaponry now, and I'm saying it's costing us more in terms of materiel because we can't replace it. How do you expect the president is going to affect what you just predicted that he will in the future if he doesn't have the weaponry to do it?
Well, see, as I was saying about Russia and the Ukrainians, we might end up buying drone attackers from Ukraine and flooding Iran with low-cost drone attacks. We are at that level where we have to start coming up with creative, financially, solvent and reliable solutions. That could be mass drone attacks. I'm just saying that if we wanted to end the war now, we could save a lot of money by detonating thermonuclear warheads in the major cities of Iran.
We're not going to talk using nuclear weapons in this war. It's insanity. Steve, followed by Tiger.
Yeah, Gary. Here's a question I'd like everyone to think about. Let's say that we pull out of it. And let's say we just leave Iran to their own devices. And let's go further and say Iran, since there's no pressure on them, reconstitutes their nuclear program, develops better ballistic missiles, and decides to detonate a few of those across the Middle East. Now, we know just from the limited amount of traffic that's been stalled through the Strait of Hormuz, the economic impact. Now, given that, and given the potential for nuclear strikes on more than one country in the Middle East, what do you suppose the economic impact on the world economy would be?
Well, that's an excellent argument, but that's not the discussion at hand. The discussion at hand is specifically the reporting by the Washington Post and previously by others that we're weeks away from running out of money to prosecute or persecute this war, depending on what perspective.
And you know why we are, don't you? You know why we're in this position. Just like in Fallujah. Instead of war is a messy proposition. And we had problems in Fallujah in Iraq. What did we do? We done the stupidest thing possible, tactically from the military point of view. We sent Marines in door to door, kicking down doors to try and root out some terrorists that had got some of our contractors. Now, it's the same thing in this war. If we'd been smart in Fallujah, what we would have done would ring the city of Fallujah with artillery and with tanks and with aircraft and drop pamphlets in there and told the people of Fallujah, you have 48 hours to come out and be inspected or we're going to level the city. They couldn't have inflicted one casualty on us, and we could have told them, look.
Okay, again, that's a great suggestion in hindsight and all that. But what does that have to do with the topic?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what it's got to do with. What it has to do with, we face political pressure from the left because they know this is a winning argument for the midterms. We face political pressure not to put boots on the ground. And I've even seen people who give this proposition, Iran's just kicking our butt. No, the only reason we're in this situation that we're in right now is because we've engaged in a little battle of ping pong with missiles and drones. Instead of using the full force because we have not got the political backing to go in and prosecute this war like it needs to be prosecuted.
Are you making the same argument for nuclear weapons?
No, I'm not.
Because you said full force.
No, let me finish my thought here because this is important. Who else is a major player in this? Israel. We should have went to Israel and told them we were going to form a joint group of boots on the ground in Karg Island and along the coast, strip Iran of their ability to do anything in the Strait of Hormuz, shut down their oil facilities, and go fully aggressive. As long as we're playing ping pong with them, we're shooting Patriot missiles and all these high-tech missiles while they're flying drones. We're playing their game. But if we would have prosecuted this because political, This is a political, not a military thing. And anyone with a brain in their head to think that Iran has the military might to stand up to us is insane. The only reason this is going on is because we are in a political war, as we always get into, like we got in Afghanistan, and we're not unleashing the full power. We should go to Israel and say, look, we're going to take Karg Island. We're going to strip the coast away from Iran. We're not going to go full inland on an invasion. We're going to strip them down to where they have absolutely nothing that they can do. And we're going to take away this ability for them to do anything in the Strait of Hormuz. But instead of doing that, we're burning through money because we want to play ping pong with Iran, which is playing into their game. Anybody that's ever played athletics knows this. This is what you do. When you play someone in a sport, you're in a war, you force them to play from their weakest point. We're letting Iran play from their strongest point, and it's training us dry. But as long as we got people sitting on the sideline like this guy saying, you know, in the Washington Post, trying to make these political snipes, or people saying, oh, you can't do this or that. And as long as we're constrained by that, instead of fighting a tactically sound military engagement that would strip Iran of its ability to do what they're doing, of course you're going to be in this position. Because you're not fighting from a military point of view, you're fighting from a political. When I even seen someone say, Abe says has one more and he's going to lose it. Are you serious? The only way we lose this sport is political. It's not military. Anybody that was a military commander would say, you go in and you take the coast. You take Karg Island. There's another island down there where they get a lot of their stuff in that they take inland that supports their economy. You strip them of the ability to function as a nation. And you say, there, okay, deal with that. But instead, we want to sit there and play ping pong. We spend $1 million a shot. They spend whatever a low-cost drone is a shot. Of course they're going to win. But it's not tactically because they're militarily superior. It's because we as a nation do not have the kahunas or the political will to fight a war and prosecute it like it needs to be fought. And that's the bottom line behind all this.
Well, I might challenge you a little bit about that, because there were meetings up on the Hill, and the reporting is, and we talked about it yesterday, that both Democrats and Republicans felt that when Excess et al. Went up onto the Hill to request $63 billion emergency appropriations for this war, that they're reticent to do so. Not just the left that finds political advantage to this, but Republicans as well, because the administration, they said, failed to articulate exactly how they would expend that money. So, of course, Congress is their responsibility to determine what monies are appropriated, and they said no. And it's not just the Democrats, it's the Republicans as well, Steve.
Gary, are you really telling me that if this thing falls apart, Hakeem Jeffries won't be the first guy to the mic just slobbering on himself about how badly we handled this war?
Of course he would, but that's not what I just said. And,
I know it's not.
You know, and sometimes I think I say things and I'm not very good at articulating. I think I'm pretty good at articulating, but that's not what I said. I said they ran out. They're running out of money. According to the Washington Post, they're weeks away from not being able to prosecute this war. Weeks. Okay. So said that they recently went up to the Hill to get support for over $60 billion of emergency funding that the administration felt that they needed. And both the Republicans and the Democrats are reticent to do so now. Maybe for the Republicans as well. Maybe for the Republicans as well. Can I say it?
Go ahead.
Maybe for the Republicans as well. It's a case of.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Maybe for the Republicans as well. It is a case of they're looking at the midterm elections and they don't want to appropriate any more money before the midterms. I don't know their reasoning, but I do know that in interviews with the media, several of them said the reason that they were not amenable to this approach to give them the money that they need is because the administration hasn't been able to give a clear-cut answer to them about what is the mission and what are you going to do with the money.
Well, let me ask you this. What if Hexas goes up to the hill and says, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to the Israelis. We're going to form a joint force, infantry. We're going to take over Karg Island. We're going to take over that other island, I forget the name of it, that has the supplies that comes into Iran from the outside that they kind of...
It's called
Yeah. Okay, we're going to do that, and we're going to further take strategic spots along the coast so that we impede their ability, and this is going to be probably 100,000, 200,000 men. But we're going to go in, we're going to put our boot on their neck, and we're going to make them say uncle, and we're going to take control of that strait. That's our plan, Congress. Are you down with that? And I guarantee you, there's not one Democrat, and probably very few Republicans, sitting on the Hill that has the political will to match the military competence that needs to be engaged in order to do this. Of course he's going to dance up there because he can't shoot with them straight because they're a bunch of weasels that doesn't want to face reality about what it would take to win this war instead of playing ping pong with missiles across the Strait of Hormuz. You can't win a war like that. You're playing into their strength. You got to go in, put your boot on their neck, and if he'd go in there and tell them that that's what needs to be done to fully prosecute this war, Republicans and Democrats alike would turn like a bunch of weasels and run for the door. They may be a bunch of weasels, but they're the people that you and I elected to Congress, and it's their responsibility to control the purse strings. So you've got to... if you want to, Gary, it's their responsibility to be asked, okay, let's say we do nothing and we allow Iran to reconstitute their nuclear weapons, and that area of the world that is so important to world economy, they set off a couple of nuclear weapons in the Middle East and it turns into chaos, and then the world economy collapses. Are you ready for that? And they would not have a thing to say. They weasel their way out. That's the reality of what we're dealing with. That's the reality of what they're unwilling to face. And that's the reality of why we're sitting here playing ping pong across the Strait of Hormuz instead of facing the military situation the way it needs to be faced and prosecuted the way it needs to be prosecuted. And until we do that, just like in Vietnam, we'll have someone like Jane Fonda in North Vietnam when our bombing campaign was actually taking an effect on them, standing there crying about how bad the United States is. Let me tell you, war is bad. You got to tactically think it through, and you got to prosecute it tactically in a way that's advantageous to us. And if you sit there and play another guy's game, of course you're going to lose. That doesn't mean you're weak militarily. What it means is you're weak politically and you're weak as a nation to face what needs to be done. Bottom line, and that's why we're in all these situations we get into. So why do you reckon that the president didn't take Steve's advice? I'm not saying it sarcastically, because presumably the military experts at the Pentagon would have said, this is what we have to do, Mr. President. Why do you reckon he didn't do that in the beginning? Well, because, Gary, he knows that he's facing a midterm. He knows he's got the political left nipping at his heels. He knows people like in our own chat that every time something goes halfway wrong, will sit there and blow it out of proportion to something that tactically is not what it is. He knows he's got a group of Republicans that don't have the spine to see this thing through like it needs to be done. War is an ugly thing. You got to prosecute it like you're mean to win it. You can't play around with it. You can't play ping pong and think you're going to win these kind of things. And so you suggest that the president went in with a losing strategy nonetheless? Well, he went went in and he thought he could play that game of ping pong. He thought he could decapitate the leadership and he could get out and wouldn't have to face the song and dance. But guess what? The Iranians were resilient. And now the reality of militarily what should have been done in the beginning is staring him in the face, and he has to go in front of a Congress that doesn't have the will for the political kahunas to say, hey, look, this problem needs to be solved. If it's not, in 20 years, the whole Middle East economy could collapse and could take the world economy with it too. And we run and hide from it, and we wonder why we elect these people. That's it. That's all I can say about it, because it's got me fired up.
So you're suggesting that we are in this mess or quagmire, whatever terminology you want to use, because the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, miscalculated. Not because of Congress. Because remember...
Well, I'm saying he probably thought that he might be able to get away with this. But he probably was told by his generals, look, if Plan A don't work, you might have to go to Plan B. And Plan B is not the plan that is palatable to the congressman, and it's not even palatable to the citizens of this country, that if you believe this is a justifiable war, that you can't even absorb $4 a gallon gas. I don't like to pay it, but if I thought that paying $4 a gallon for gas right now would save the Middle East from going into a death spiral and take the world economy with it, and my kids 20 years later wouldn't have to face it, yeah, I'd be willing to pay that $4 now to get them out of the mess that may occur in 20 years. This is insanity at its highest level.
So, if I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a great deal of frustration in Congress that the president started prosecuting this, claiming that he could do so without their approval for 60 days under the law, without seeking the advice and consent of Congress. So he unilaterally went in there and tried a strategy that failed. And now you want to blame Congress because that strategy failed? He's the one who extended, he's the one who expended more munitions than we have the capability of replenishing. That was Donald Trump, the Commander-in-Chief.
Why did he do it, Gary? I just explained to you why he done it. It's not hard to follow. It's not hard to follow. If you're expending munitions at the rate we are playing ping pong across the Strait of Hormuz instead of tactically addressing this war, sure you're going to run out of bullets. They're flying cheap drones. We're shooting million-dollar missiles. That doesn't take a mathematician to figure that out. And the reason we engage in this is because of poor tactical assessment of what was going on. And in the beginning, when he decided to do this, if he went to Congress and told them what he was going to do, with Congress' full knowledge of the potential of what Iran could do to the Middle East and vis-a-vis the world economy, they would have said no. So that's where we're at.
Well, that may be, but he didn't, in his mind, need to go to Congress, and he didn't go to Congress, and he followed the path that he followed, and he failed. So we are where we are.
What tactically in the whole analysis that I've just laid out to you is incorrect. What is wrong with Israel joining with the United States to take Carg Island? Could there be casualties? Yes. Was there casualties in World War II? Was there casualties in the Civil War? Was there casualties in the Korean War? There's always going to be casualties.
Right, but we're not discussing.
You've got to ask yourself, is it justifiable?
Right, but that's not what he decided to do. He took a different tactic that failed. So the reason we are where we are today, because he probably knew, as you know, that there are a bunch of weasels, to use your terminology, in Congress, and he could never get the money that he needed. So he had to be successful in the first 60 or 90 days, depending on how one interprets that authorization that the president could do so unilaterally, and he miscalculated. So he miscalculated what the Iranian people would do.
but he calculated into this the political will of the Congress to address the situation in the Middle East. Now, hey, if we pull out there tomorrow, we're going to have everyone saying, well, Pete Hegseth doesn't know how to run a war and Donald Trump is incompetent, blah, 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 which totally misses the point of how we prosecute this war and why. But we will also be left with this inevitable question that if we do, and no president has been able to address this problem with Iran and the instability it's going to inject into the Middle East and inevitably into the world economy, and we're sitting there with our hands over our eyes going, la, 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 like this problem don't exist. Get a freaking grip, people, get a grip.
But see, your argument keeps obfuscating the question, and I'm gonna move on to the next person, because I'm not arguing what the proper tactics would be. If I'm your son and you give me an allowance and I go spend that money on, waste that money, I could have invested it, I could have used it, to buy transportation, to have a job, whatever. But instead I wasted it on booze, or I wasted it on girls, or I wasted it on drugs, or whatever I wasted it on. And I come back to you and I say, and I know when I come back that you're going to be my weasel dad, and you're not going to give me any more money. Is that your fault or my fault? I'm the one who miscalculated how to manage the money that I was given.
You totally ignored the ping pong analogy I give you, and why we're in this situation to begin with. We're
but we're in this situation to begin with because
we'll not address it
Right,
properly.
but you will not acknowledge, and I don't know why not, the buck stops at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. This was a strategy of the President of the United States. Not a strategy of Congress. Congress wasn't even consulted.
Well, Gary, the funding stops at Congress, don't it? The president can only engage in the funds that he gives you. How can you drive a Ferrari when you can't get the loan? You don't think you have the funds to do take those two islands? Well, I don't know. I think it would have probably there have been so many variables in there that you could have very well had to went back and went to Congress for more funding. Those are variables that you got to know the answer to. And if you're dealing with a group of people that doesn't have the political will to solve a problem tactically in the way that it needs to be addressed militarily, then you're fighting with two hands tied behind your back.
Do you think if the president had sent troops on the ground, a joint operation with Israel, as you say, into those two islands, and then determined that they need more money to continue to prosecute that Congress would say, no, let those service members just hang out to dry out there? Or do you think that they will come up with the money?
Well, Gary, I can only hear the chatter right now. It's ringing through my head. That's all I got to say. This is political will. This is tactics, tactical military tactics being addressed in a proper way, and the will to prosecute an enemy. Once you've seen that decapitation doesn't work in the way we have the military might, we have the ability to do it. We lack the political and civil will to prosecute a problem that eventually is going to blow up in everyone's face. And when it does, I may not be here, but when it does, I don't want to hear anyone cry about it, because everyone knew it was here. And they turned their back and went, la, 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 la. That's it.
I don't know whether people are turning their back and going, la, la, la.
Oh, it cannot be named.
What's that, Ellen?
I said, cannot be next after you two finish.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ellen.
Are you guys done?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm done, Alan. I'm sorry I took so long.
No, Steve. You said most of the thing. It was in my heart for a long, long time. Both of you are right. Gary is right in one area, and you are right in another area. The only thing we're missing in here is they have elements inside our government. They have elements all over the place, and we don't have shit over there, they can help us. And these people, you think Iran didn't know it's going to get to this point? These mullah, they didn't know it's going to get to this point. They didn't know the Congress is going to fight the president. President is going to fight the Congress. And then the peoples, as soon as they get pinched in the pocket a little bit, they're going to go wacko. And they are over there. Not a single Iranian can get up and say why my rent from 5 million jumped to 5 billion. They don't have that ability, but we do have. We extreme, we do. This is the part I don't understand. I'm probably never going to understand until I die. This war shouldn't be in this point. This war should be done. The first 12 days of attack cut these mullahs, these murder, hands down. And all of a sudden, President Trump says, ceasefire. So,
Freudian slip because of this.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Passover.
You go in full power, you go in getting, and you're almost done, and you have 80 million people behind you. This is the part I don't understand. 80 million people. They were screaming to get rid of this regime. They were willing to help you. That's what they did to Mossad. Mossad lived in Tehran for many, many years. By themselves? No, with the help of people. And you got this administration bypass that, says ceasefire, and there you go. Negotiation. You think Iranian, they didn't know. They miscalculated two things. It's not just the financial, it's not just the way it works. The biggest thing they had man in here, they would report them 24/7. They knew exactly where it goes, and that's where we are here now. It wasn't hard to get those two islands. That's what I don't understand. We are broke. Well, they did it. Maybe there's a reason behind it. You, Steve, don't know. I don't know. Gary don't know. Scott doesn't know. But they know it has to be something. Somebody is making a benefit of that. Because of 47 years ago, they wanted to cut the Americans' hand out of that area. And they were successful by bringing Khomeini goes 3-4 months, sit on the apple trees in Paris, and then French, British, all the European, and you think now they're going to cut them on to help United States or the Union, they have it free, they don't. Thank you.
There's another part of this equation as well, and that is that it's incredibly important that the president was advised that this activity of hate will result in Iran's responding by choking off the Strait of Hormuz. And that's why it's not just political pressure on the state, because of the cost of gasoline. And it's not just the cost of gasoline, it's the effects on other countries of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. So he was told, he had the intel, he should have known this was going to be the counterpunch. It's not just playing ping pong with Iran. The counterpunch was going to be closing the Strait of Hormuz, and they did. And now they got the Houthis claiming that they're going to close off another waterway to the Saudis. This is an expansion of this war, which is not a declared war, by the way. Thank you, Alan. We'll go to Tiger, followed by William.
It's been a while, Gary. The short thesis that I have is that the United States military would never run out of cash. And I'm going to illustrate that with a little story. 2 years ago, General Dynamics acquired one of the subsidiaries that was designated by the Congress to make the I believe M395 or 795 150 5 millimeter shells for the artillery to be used, by the cannons in mostly Ukraine. And they got some Congress funding close to $1 billion. And the province of those shells from about 10,000 rounds per month to 300,000 a month in 2 years. They took this money and they did a report. They say there are some existing outdated production lines of the old M107 shells that is also 155 millimeter. And they purchased 3 of those production lines and claim that they can revamp the production lines and ramp up the production to meet the Department of Defense or Department of War requirements. And 2 years after that, they report that the shells they have produced do not meet the quality standards that is required for the type of projectile.
They have not produced one shell.
They have produced some shells.
No, they have not produced a single shell. They haven't produced a single shell as required under the contract. They have not produced a single shell as required under the contract. It's worse as required, what you were suggesting.
Like you say, as required. So you know about the story, right? So maybe you can tell the story.
Well, we did. We discussed it yesterday, so yeah, I'm aware.
Okay. Well, the short message is that they are now asking $1 billion more of those, Congress funding. Even that General Dynamics also pledged $200 million of their own money, which they claim has already been put into the production lines. And it looks like Congress is going to fund them again. And all that money being thrown into these production lines for military hardware, if you think about it, they do 2 things. The first thing is that they light up the pockets of but they might also of these wars. I think one of the goals is to use the war as an excuse not only to enrich some people, but also to try to increase the productivity of the United States industrial base. And despite the fact that they have produced no usable shells after close to $1 billion of funding, in a way they're achieving that. And despite the fact that the United States is $40 trillion in debt, it is clear since the United States has the power to create liquidity out of nowhere, when they get injected into the U.S. economy, most of that get parked in the U.S. assets. That will basically show up as appreciation of the U.S. stock market. Everybody is happy. People are getting rich. Economy numbers will look good. It's an afterthought what happens in Iran, in a sense. It's also an afterthought for this administration, at least, what will happen in the long run to the U.S. debt. And I think that's something that the American people should really be vigilant about. And after all, my assessment is that the Iran war, regardless of the result, will not advance U.S.
As long as I know that you're listening, John, I just want to share with you why I'm confused. So you can just listen. You said, I don't know everything. I admit it. Especially when it comes to normativity. I don't even understand normativity, to be honest. But I had to look up what does non-normative mean with respect to wrong. And apparently non-normative just means anything that simply describes, as you said, and I understand that part, describes, observes, or presents facts without
Oh my God, Jacob cut his hair and took a shower. Smelling like roses. Hello? Try reading a book. Sometimes reading a book is extremely useful.
Thank you, Tiger. William, followed by Andrew.
Okay, I've got about 5 points, and some of them are brief. One of the things was cameras. We have plenty of cameras mounted on the various military platforms that we're deploying, and we've got satellite footage and all kinds of images. So if we wanted to deploy or educate the public with those images, we certainly have the material capacity to do so, and probably have safer images.
Let me just interject by saying
Next, the following text is between the points of the pentagram, starting at upper right. The words below are arced in a circle.
Now ye shall know that the chosen priest, the axle of infinite space, is the prince, priest, the beast, and in his woman called the Scarlet Woman is all power given. They shall gather my children into their fold. They shall bring the glory of the stars into the hearts of men. 16, for he is ever a sun and she a moon, but to him is the winged secret flame, and to her the stooping starlight. But we are not so chosen. 18 burn upon their brows, O splendorous serpent. 19, O azure the rituals is in the secret word which I have given unto him. These are fools that men adore, both their gods and their men of fools. 12 come forth, O children, under the stars, and take your fill. 13 I am above you, and in you my ecstasy is in yours. My joy is to see your joy. 14 above, the gemmed azure is the naked splendor of Nuit. She bends in ecstasy to kiss the secret ardors of Hades. The wind of the starry blue, or light awaketh now soon. My joy is to see your joy. The gemmed azure is the naked splendor of Nuit. secret ardors of hate. The wind of the starry blue, her mind awake doth not ensue. My joy is to see your joy. I was waiting for a sign to start, like a map drawn out in the dark. Now the city's calling out my name to choose a brand new path. Tired of watching from the side while the streets and dreams collide. So I take one step with my phone. Time to change this heavy load. Maybe we don't need to know it all. Maybe we just need to vote so we keep moving anyway. Chicago choose a brighter day. Go to Chicago, make a vote for calm. Let your voice lead the way. Every choice rewires me. Every vote unlocks a key. We want tax reform today. Vote John Kitover, pave the way. Clouds still riding in our head, but it won't get the final say. We can rise and stand as one. For Chicago starting today. We don't need a perfect line, just a reason, just a sign. Every inch we claim is ours. Every step can raise the bar. Go slow, go fast, just don't go back. Trust the rhythm in this town. Time to lift our future now. So we keep moving anyway. Chicago, stand up, have your say. Go to ChicagoMayElection.com. Vote John Kitover today. Every chance rewires me. Every vote unlocks a key. We want tax reform right now. Bro, Chicago, rise up now.
Mine is the head of the man, and my inside is keen as the hawks. By my head I invoke thee. I am the only begotten child of my father and mother. My father is dead. My mother bore me with labor and pain and fear. By my body I invoke thee. The clouds beshine the diamonds of radiance, white and pure. By their brightness I invoke thee. Mine is the red triangle, reverse the sign, given of none. Save thee, O Lord. By the Laman I invoke thee. Mine is the garment of light, sewn with gold, the flashing of day that I wear. By my robe I invoke thee. Mine is the sign of office and Typhoon. By the sign I invoke thee. Mine is the turban of white and gold, and mine the blue figure of the Internet. By my crown I invoke thee. My fingers tremble on the beat of her, so run I after thee in thy car of glory. By my fingers I invoke thee. By the wand of double power in the voice of the master. By the word I invoke thee. By the dark waves of music in the song that I made of old to implore thee. Strike the master chord, draw the flaming sword, Shadow conquering Lord, Horus Avenger. My hand is thy sword of revenge. Let it strike at thy cheek. By the sword I invoke thee. I am the voice of the 611 are the voices. Abrahadabra. Mine is the head of the man, and my insight is keen as the hawks. By my head I invoked it. I am the only begotten child of my father and mother. My father is dead. My mother bore me with labor and pain and fear. By my body I invoked it. About me shine the diamonds are radiant, white and pure. By their brightness I invoke it. Mine is the red triangle reverse, the sign given of none. Save it be of thee, O Lord. By the Lamb and I invoke thee. Free mine is the garment of white, sewn with gold. The flashing of eye that I wear. By my robe I invoke thee. Mine is the sign of a prophet and typhon. By the sign I invoke it. For mine is the turban of white and gold, and mine the blue figure of the intimate. By my crown I invoke it. My fingers travel on the beads of pearl, so run I after thee in thy car of glory. By my fingers I invoke thee. I hear the bond of double power in the voice of the master. Abrahadabra, by the word I invoke thee. Be my northern dark blue waves of music in the song that I made a move to invoke thee. Strike a master chord. Draw a flaming sword. Child and conquering Lord. Horus, Avenger. By the song I invoke thee. If I am the voice for the revenge, let me strike at thy wicked spell and scourge of God, the vast one might be.
Anybody else hear that definition? What y'all?
I was going to ask him to actually define it. Straight to it, like less than here is definition. But based on what he was saying, I wanted to know what.
Ask me a question, Alvin. Thank you so much for that. That was a great exercise, Alvin. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. David, what's up?
Yeah, it's not a question. I just wanted to apologize for earlier on today.
Oh no, don't worry about it, David. I'm only messing around. Well, we kind of ruffled it. We
get it out and leave to go back to work, but I told him that